Good evening. All right. Man, you guys are quick. You guys are quick, man. Unbelievable. Tonight's going to be one of those nights on the show for me. And me being the film fanatic that I am, and my excitement that I have and had over the movie The Endless, because when we first caught it, I knew that the film was special. But for me, being in the position that I am able to reach out to the filmmakers and creators of something as cool as this, and to have them go, dude, we're so there, right? Well, it enables me. I mean, just imagine if you were able to, just see a film on TV and go, hey, you know what? I want to talk to the director, and you just pick up the phone, and the next thing you know, you're sitting there rapping with him or her how they made the film and how they wrote it and why it was special to you and stuff. Well, I'm able to do that, and it's crazy for me. And this film is really, really great. The reviews are in. It's a huge hit. But the film is about everything that we talk about and everything that interests me. And so the ability to pull all of that together for this show, the way that I want to do it for this audience is the coolest. So it's going to be one of those shows tonight. I already know it's special for me. And if that conversation can be as special for me as I think it's going to be, you guys are right there being a part of it. And wow, right? Okay. I've only got a few seconds left, but there you go. Tonight it is The Endless. Tomorrow night, Fader Night. John Rappaport's going to be here with his No More Fake Newsroom, and then we wrap another week. Here we go. We're going live. Enjoy the show.
Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. It is. Even better than that, it's Wednesday, July 18th, 2018. That's right. 200 days into the new year, just 165 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How are you? It's going to be one of those nights tonight. We've had an amazing week here, another amazing week here on Fade to Black. And tonight we have two very special guests. We have Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead here, the creators of the hit film The Endless. That's right, they're joining us for the first time, so you know what that means. But this film, and I knew it when I saw it, and Rita turns to me and she goes, okay, all right, you only get to do one show on this. Don't talk about it too much, you know, because she knew the film just hit on all cylinders. And so I did what I thought that I should do, which is be, I don't want to say fanboy. It's not as much that. What is important is that this film, I mean, I was, you know, I'm going down, I'm checking the boxes, right? Okay, we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, we've got that. It's all here. It's all here. And then I watched it a second time and thought to myself, the subject matter of what's going down in this film is cool because I get it and I understood it and I felt that the film was made for me. And that is always what is most important. As a filmmaker, and in this case, filmmakers, they're making films for themselves. That's what they do, right? What interests them? Well, obviously, these subjects interest them, too, as well. So then I was on a mission. I knew that I had to get them on this show. I wanted to have a conversation with them to figure out where they are coming from. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay? Because when I went back and looked at the film a second time, after look, when a film touches on portals or time travel or science or UFOs or anything or historical events, I'm waiting for something to slip up. I want it to be perfect. I want it to represent, right? And this film never stumbled. It just didn't stumble. It stayed on point from the beginning to the end. And the ability for me, and I mentioned this to the Fadernauts in my little pre-roll on the show tonight on the Bunker Cam, one of the cool things about this show and me being me is that I'm able to, and I'm in Hollywood, and that's that I'm able to just reach out to creators like this and get them on the show and be able to have those conversations. And just imagine yourself being in the position that I am in, which is if you were sitting at home and no matter where you are around the country and you dial in Netflix or Amazon or DirecTV and you're going through and you catch a really cool film and you're like, wow, man, that film was cool. And then you just turn around and pick up the phone and call the director of the film and have a conversation. Well, I'm able to do that. And you, as this audience and the Fadernauts, you get to participate in that. And that's what is so cool about doing this show, because I'm able to talk about film and time travel and music and food. And somebody just posted some pictures of Captain Crunch, and I really appreciate that too as well. And we all get to do this together. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead are here. The film is The Endless. And I know that many of you went out and watched the film because I told you to. When I recommend something, you know that it's being recommended. But the other part is you now know that they were going to be on the show. And so you had to go and do some homework. You had to go and get edumacated. And you did. Tonight, it's Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Tomorrow night is another Fader night. John Rappaport is back from his road research. So we will find out what our Producer at Large has been out there doing, and that will be tomorrow night, followed by Open Lines all night long. Little programming note. I won't be doing Coast to Coast this weekend. As you notice, I took a little bit of a break after the last couple of months of no days off and no weekends off whatsoever. I needed to, recharge, and now I'm feeling pretty good. So I'll be back hosting Coast to Coast next weekend, and then we head into August, which is another heavy month for us on scheduling. But I've got some Coast to Coast dates squeezed in between the other weekends where Rita and I will be traveling. And so there you go. So we'll make all of those announcements next week, who, what, when, and where. But the madness is getting ready to kick up again. We did manage to get some rest in. So, okay, there you go. On Stellar, ONSTELLAR.com. That's where you want to be. That's where everybody is hanging out. OnStellar.com. Use the promo code, referral code Jimmy when you register, and you'll get those bonus tokens. But on top of that, when you register, build your profile. Don't forget to upload a profile image of yourself, and then send me a friend request. It's really that simple. And come and hang out. You've got to read what everybody is posting over there. The articles. Today I'm working all day. Got to get stuff done. And I am getting sucked in to the articles and the blogs that everybody is posting over there. It is so much fun to do. And a lot of it is really good original content. And the ability to just go and click and click and click and read what everybody is putting down is extraordinary. But the other part about it, what makes it so great, is you don't have to be the author of a book or the star of a television series or a documentary. No, you can be you. That platform, it's a social media platform that has all the stuff that any other social media platform has. Okay, so you can do that, whatever you're used to doing. But you can create. And when you create and you post it, it goes up there alongside with everybody else. You have equal footing to be read. And your thoughts can get out there. Whatever it is. Maybe you want to put an experience or a story or a sighting out there, and you want to talk with others that have had those same experiences. Boom, just do it. It's crazily cool. So, and I've found myself really fighting this addiction of just sitting there and reading article after article after article. You have to go and check it out and see what it's all about. OnStellar.com, ONSTELLAR.com. And do use my referral code, Jimmy. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple, at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox where we hang out. During every show, we probably bust through 2,000, 3,000 tweets per night. And you really want to come over and hang out with everybody on Twitter, hashtag F2B. Or we have the chat rooms. We have the Fade to Black chat room over on Spreaker. And, of course, KGRA, The Planet. Okay. Oh, any questions or comments during the show, hashtag F2BQ. Breaking news. Listen to this. The European Union's legislative body demanded Google pay 4.34 billion euros. And if you're doing the math, that is $5.6 billion for violating antitrust laws. Specifically, the commission accused Google of using its Android mobile operating system to force the Google search engine and Chrome browser on users. Google compensated hardware companies that make Android smartphones to pre-install Google apps on those phones. Google required companies to do this so they could license Google's mobile app marketplace on those devices. But Google doesn't care. Of course they don't. Seriously, they don't. In 2017, that's right, last year, are you ready? Last year, the very same commission, the very same fine, $3 billion, came down last year for the very same practices. Google paid it. And they don't care. And they're up for the exact same thing from the same commission this year, $5 billion fine. There you go. All right. I've been talking about this all week. It is breaking news because it's really cool. Right now, River Moon Coffee has a 20% discount on all of their offerings, which includes our very own Fade to Black blend. You get a 20% discount. All you have to do is go to rivermooncoffee.com and use the promo code Coffee Break. That's 2 words, Coffee Break. That's it. 20% discount. And, and they did want to have me thank all of you. So I'm going to do that right now. Thank you so much for the support. Okay. All right. Let's skedaddle right into the show because I've got some other stuff I want to talk about. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 885 archive shows. Custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, just $2 a month. Click on the podcast banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can also become a Fade or Not at our membership section on the site where you will get the Bunker Cam. You can also get commercial-free downloadable archives. You get a private email to me. You can also, if you get the Game Changer, get all that autographed Fade to Black gear. All right, which includes that Fade to Black hat that we do not sell. Okay, what time and station is it on here in San Diego? JimmyChurchRadio.com. That's where you get it there, and that's from Hazard. Okay, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Richard Branson. Richard Branson is 68. Yes, Virgin, and I get all of that, and Virgin Galactic and space trips and everything that he's got going on. But that's not why he makes the list. He makes the list because he brought us the Sex Pistols. Happy birthday, Richard Branson. Also today, one of the greats, System of a Down guitarist, Darren Malakian. Today is 43. Lives right here in Burbank, by the way. Our dead guy's birthday today, Hunter S. Thompson. 1929 to 2005, died at the age of 76. His 1970 The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved article was hailed as a landmark in journalism. One of the editors dubbed the new style Gonzo, and he had his own new nickname, which did stick. In 1972, Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas became a bestseller, as did his 1972 book Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail about the Nixon-McGovern presidential election. Thompson died at his home in Woody Creek, Colorado on February 20th, 2005 of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He is one of the few that I've always wanted to interview and couldn't. And the others, well, top of the list, Bill Cooper and Lloyd Pye. Happy birthday, Hunter S. Thompson. On this day in history, OTD. It happened 1984. I've talked about it on this show many times. 1984, James Oliver Huberty opens up a fire in a crowded McDonald's restaurant in San Ysidro, California, killing 21 people, wounding 19 others with several automatic weapons. Minutes earlier, Huberty had left his home, and telling his wife and kids that I'm going hunting for humans on this day in 1984. Fate or fact? I should hold this off. No, I'm doing it for Justin and Aaron Okay, I'm just going to do it now. I'll hit him with this during the show, though. The first film with a $100 million budget was... I'm going to leave that up to Twitter right there. Let's see who pops it first in Twitter. All right? What was the first film with a $100 million budget? Okay. All right. Let's see who's first. Okay. All right. Tonight, very special guests. We have Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead here. The film The Endless is absolutely phenomenal. It's all of that. I haven't been able to really find a criticism for the film, if you know what I mean. I haven't been able to do that. It's a really great picture. You need to check it out. It is called The Endless. The reviews are in. Go and check it out. And we are going to talk about all aspects of the film and, of course, the lives of Justin and Aaron in just a few short minutes. Tomorrow night's another Fader night. Open lines all night long. And we've got John Rappaport here with his No More Fake Newsroom live. Now, I wanted to talk about this as I hit that coffee. There are so many reasons why I do what I do today. There are so many reasons for that. And as I danced through my, crazy life, colorful, crazy, and went through the things that I went through to make me who I am today, and you have done your things that made you, you. And I did all of those things. And having parents that were musicians and living that lifestyle at a very young age and being exposed to the world like I was at a very young age, not only brought the elements of music and creativity and art into my life, but it was UFOs. And as I danced through, and I went through, and every chance that I got going down that road, I would stop. A little roadside here, a little roadside there, little UFO book here, an experience, and another one across the street, and a friend, and I never stopped. I never did. I kept UFOs right there. And the amount of, there were in the 70s and in the 80s, there were a lot of books that were available, and there were a few magazines. And I collected everything that I could. I would walk into a bookstore, go to the UFO section, grab a few books, put them on the counter, buy them, take them home. And I did it constantly. I did it at every phase of my life. I was gifted books, and I did nothing but the research. And Omni magazine covering UFOs once in a while. I'd grab those issues and I'd put that into the pile. And I would read and study, read and study, read. And then a weird thing happened in the 90s, and it was called the internet. And I've talked about this a few times. But I went, and this was 1994. And I go to work for Alesis. And Alesis, when I was hired there, they gave me a laptop. And laptop 1.0. Okay, this is very early on. I had a couple of desktop computers and things. But at that point, there was no AOL. There was the internet. Signing on and getting a modem was a really big deal. Those didn't come with a computer. And back then, you had to get a PCM CIA card that plugged into your computer, and you had a little modem jack that popped out of it, and you can plug your phone into it. And then you had to somehow sign on for whatever. And back then, the laptop was used for company email, and we used Lotus 123. I think that was our email at that time, so long ago. And I had a black and white LCD laptop. Color screens hadn't even happened yet, Right? So think about this. So I got this laptop and I got this black and white color screen, and I start my quest and my journey to get onto the internet. And I had a couple of friends that told me how to do it, and they came over to my house, and we somehow configured and found some place to dial into. It's so funny now. But then going on and trying to find information about UFOs. And that was my goal. That was my goal. And I was able to figure out a way to surf the net. And then Mozilla had come out, Mosaic. I don't think Netscape was quite out yet, but things were happening pretty fast. But there weren't websites out there. You know, and you could get a web address. Somebody would give you a website address, and you could type it in and go there and actually see a web page, right? And it was rare. I mean, it was rare. Well, anyway, and this is what I wanted to get to. As I was going through all of those phases, Art Bell and Coast to Coast is happening, as everybody famously knows by now. I've talked about it so much. It was across the street from where I lived, and literally across the street. You could hit the Coast to Coast studios with a rock and not even have to throw it that hard. Right across the street. Well, anyway, back to my point. During this early time, the revelations that were coming out on Coast to Coast AM were one after another. You had Hoagland and the Face on Mars, and you had Bob Lazar. Roswell was just creeping in. You certainly had the MJ-12 stuff, and these one story after another was breaking. And then there was Heaven's Gate. Okay. And when Heaven's Gate happened, it was one of those moments that I saw it on the news. I'm sitting in my living room, and in my living room, I've got a desk, and I've got my laptop sitting there, and I'm sitting at the desk, and the TV's on in the background. I've got the news on, and I hear the story break about Heaven's Gate, and I turned around and watched that. And then I spun around on my laptop and looked up Heaven's Gate. And I was able to, that night, go and check out their website. Now, this was 1996, 1997. And you have to remember what the internet was about. And to have a website those early days was a really big deal. I go, and there's the website, and I started surfing. And then it all came together for me. The stuff that Art Bell had been talking about over I don't know if it was quite a year, but certainly he was talking about Hale Bob and all of these elements about it. And I'm reading what's going on in the Heaven's Gate website, and the fact that 40 people just died in San Diego and committed suicide over a comet and a UFO, right? Well, this was a really big story, and this was all part of what was going on in ufology at that time, not only with Coast to Coast, but the Heaven's Gate story was part of the UFO community because of all of the elements about it, right? So, anyway, this guy, Marshall Applewhite, headed a UFO death cult. And the story was so dark for me, so dark, that after it kind of blew over, I didn't go back. And I remember trying to think about it or trying to talk about it with friends. I just didn't do it. The story bothered me too much. And I didn't want to be, with my friends, looked at like I was one of these Comet Hale Bob guys. So I had to let it go. And I felt really strange about it. I remember going back like a year later, and I think the Heaven's Gate site was still live. And I went and checked it out, and I went through and I looked at the videos again, and I thought, and now I read everything about Marshall Applewhite, everything about his entire career and the things that he had talked about. And how could you get 40 people together to believe in you, to rent this huge mansion, have everybody work for you, and then just one day get talked into committing suicide? How is that possible? Well, it did happen. I let it go. And this was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Now enter the film The Endless. As The Endless, and we're going to talk to Justin and Aaron about this. Heaven's Gate had such an effect on me that when I watch the film The Endless and how these ideals and ideas about a purported UFO death cult, or how it could be handled, or how society looks at it, or how members would look at it, is expertly done. Handled really, really well. And so when you go and watch the film The Endless, after you're done, go back and do a little Heaven's Gate research. And think about the conversation that's about to go down tonight with myself, Justin, and Aaron. It's really strange how life comes together. All right? Pay attention to those synchronicities. You never know when they're going to come back at a future time, like they are for me tonight. Think about that. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick short break, and I'll be right back with our guest, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Justin at Justin Benson. Follow Aaron Moorhead at Aaron Huntington Moorhead. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back. Stay with me.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
What can I say about the most popular tea on the internet? And what do customers say about Life Change Tea at getthetea.com? A lot. But by federal law, we at getthetea.com cannot make claims to how this product can enhance your health. We cannot even post our testimonies without being in compliance. So how do we get past the hump? Try our products at getthetea.com and see for yourself. You can send us a testimony, but we just can't post it. Bummer. Our products are GMO-free and organic. We pride ourselves in being the best we can be, and we urge you to take charge of your health. We're 11 years strong, and many of our customers have shared their successes with friends and family. Protect your colon. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. Getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. Just head straight over there. Use the promo code FADER, F-A-D-E-R, and you're going to get yourself some free shipping. Tonight, our guest, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, they're both here. They are the co-directing team behind the 2017 Tribeca Film Festival U.S. narrative competitor, The Endless, 2014 Toronto International Film Festival favorite, Spring, as well as the sleeper hit, Resolution. We're going to talk about that tonight, too, as well. That premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival and took the film festival circuit by storm back in 2012. Their films have been widely acclaimed by critics and audiences for their naturalistic performances, dreamy cinematography, and avant-garde approach. In addition to massive video-on-demand numbers, The Endless and Spring are certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and Resolution remains 100% fresh. In the wake of being selected as one of Variety magazine's 10 directors to watch in 2015, both Guillermo del Toro and Richard Linklater publicly praised their work. Now, while the approval of Linklater and del Toro accurately suggests their unique grasp of both character and fantastical, the duo's films have been described as quietly mythic, unpredictable storytelling that won't leave you after the viewing. Well, now this is the thing. They're also known for wearing as many hats as possible. Okay, they do the writing, they do the directing, the cinematography, the editing, even the visual effects. And in the case of The Endless, which really floored me, they took both of the lead roles. Well, tonight, we're going to talk about that new film, The Endless. We're going to talk about the science behind the film, supernatural, E.T., cult, time travel elements that are all the basis of the film that they wrote, directed, edited, and shot, as well as playing those two leads. You need to check out this website that they have got up. It's called ourmultiversesavior.org. And I laugh because it's a really cool parody site, and if we can't laugh at certain things, then why even be here? And I would like to welcome to Fade to Black for the first time, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Good evening, guys. How are you?
We're good. Thank you so much for having us. This is really exciting for us.
Now, and thank you for being here. And now the praise of the film and the fanboy stuff, I'm going to try to ignore tonight, and let's just try to have a conversation. But you're also both first-time guests. So you get the first-time guest disclaimer, which is this. It's just you and I, the three of us, sitting on my couch, having a conversation as friends. And where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. And it's that simple. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. First, so I know whose voice is who. Justin, say hello.
This is Justin. I'm saying hello. And just to warn you, this is going to be confusing no matter what.
I know, right? Aaron, say hello to everybody.
This is Aaron. So we have vaguely similar voices.
I knew we were going to do this, right? So there you go. All right. I'm actually going to start here before I ask the softball questions. You know, how did you guys meet and all of that? Which one of you had the ET experience first? Which one of you was abducted?
Oh man, we're both abducted at the same time into the bosom of cinema. No, wouldn't that be amazing? Actually, we talk about this semi often, and we both have neither of us have had any paranormal experience that we can remember at all. I think, right?
I mean, I've had stuff that I can't. I've had a lot of stuff that I can look at and I can talk about it, but I can't say that there's not some other explanation. But I can't say I've never that there's nothing even remotely otherworldly I've never experienced. I can't say that. But I've had a lot of things happen that it's like, well, there's two different ways to look at it. Either I experienced the otherworldly, or my brain did something funny.
Well, Aaron, it'll be easier too if I just say your names.
Sure.
But Aaron, you wrote the film The Endless.
No, actually, that was Justin.
Justin. Okay, hold on. I knew that. See, I don't have notes in front of me. I don't do the show that way. Justin, you wrote the film. And all of those elements that I have listed here that are involved in this film involve a lot of research. So you must have been a fan of this of the genre, all of it, for a long time. How did you start this journey down the paranormal, supernatural, ET, UFO, death cult road?
Oh, I mean. It goes back so far to, when I was when I was really little and I first started, for example, renting movies. I really liked to experience the sort of roller coaster through a ride of watching sci-fi and horror films when I was very little. And my parents didn't have the belief that watching like anything would necessarily be bad for me. And I think I'm fine. But no, the interest, like, for whatever reason, I gravitated towards those types of stories. I had an older brother that gave me a very large collection of Stephen King books, and that was really influential. And then I think having aspirations of becoming a writer and wanting to sort of write in that realm of sci-fi and horror and fantasy and all of that, but at the same time being raised. I was raised atheist, and what's interesting about that is that I think that it made my brain come up with, you just invent more mythologies because you're not introduced to one or exposed to one when you're very young. So when I was writing, I'd just be inventing these mythologies that didn't have any basis in any traditional spirituality.
And which one, was it Aaron that grew up in San Diego?
No, that was Justin again.
That was Justin again. Okay. So, Justin, you grew up in San Diego. Aaron, really quick, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Tarpon Springs, Florida, which is, if you know Clearwater, it's near Clearwater, and if you don't know Clearwater, it's near Tampa.
Yeah, there you go. I was just there a couple of years ago. Okay. So I was actually in Clearwater. Well, I stayed at Tampa at the airport and then drove to Clearwater every day and back. Across that long bridge every day. So, Justin, back to you. How old were you when Heaven's Gate happened? Do you remember it?
I remember it. I don't remember exactly how old I was. It just kind of blurs into my entire childhood. But I remember it when it happened. And my dad's a medical tech in San Diego, and he had a patient who actually owned the house that it happened in. And it was a rental property he owned. And I remember my dad coming home from work being like, yeah, I had this patient and this thing happening on the news. That's how he found out about that happened in his house. Literally, he was watching the news and he's like, that's my rental property. And, a lot of people had passed away in that house.
Did you kind of forget about it and then maybe as an adult go back and go, oh wow, that's right, that happened right here in San Diego?
I fortunately and unfortunately, I sort of obsess over oddities, no matter how esoteric. I know this one's not that esoteric, but you know, like I never stopped going back to go visit that website that's still up.
Right.
That very very, very, very 90s website, and I would always show it to people. I think I introduced Aaron to it.
No. I actually, that was one of the few things I knew about, but it was crazy. Yeah.
And see, this is the other part. Now we're going to start getting into the Endless here. As the story for the Endless came together, did you incorporate Heaven's Gate into it, or was Heaven's Gate the reason why you wrote the film?
The two main characters in the Endless, the characters of Justin and Aaron, the guys who had fled the cult a decade earlier, those two characters are in our first movie, Resolution. And when we were making it, we had, for a sort of story device reason, had added several weird characters in the film that would give flavor and also just serve the purpose of oddly taking emphasis off one particular character in the film. And without getting too far into that, I think Aaron and I at the time were just like, oh, you know, it would be really interesting if there were like basically a cult out there around in the story, and that we could just play those characters and we wouldn't have to drive anyone else out in the middle of nowhere where we were shooting.
Well,
and so they were invented right there. And then we just kept talking about the UFO death cult they were in for years and years and years. And eventually the Heaven's Gate part, just all it became was that the character of Justin, that is where he basically, what is revealed as a lie later on in the film, that's where he got that information from. Was that he had probably, we'd never say it out loud in the film, but it was like, oh, that's probably where he got that information, and then where he found the elements of that lie.
Aaron, should we consider Resolution as part one?
It's interesting. Part one is the first time I've ever heard it referred to as that. The films completely exist on their own. You can watch it not even knowing the other film exists. What's interesting is, with the release of the film The Endless, people are discovering our work, but they, you know, the Endless seems to kind of linger with people in a really interesting way, and then they find out that our first movie, which was a tiny $20,000 film, we find out that exists and exists in the same universe, and I don't know yet which order is better to experience them. People who saw Resolution 5 years ago, if they caught it, you know, at 3 a.m. on Showtime or whatever, and they forgot about it, it might be more interesting if you then see The Endless and feel like, oh, I've seen this movie before. This is really crazy. I don't know how that's possible. But there's also a whole lot of people who are discovering Resolution and could almost see that as the not the sequel exactly, but more like a prequel to The Endless. But they don't exist in any particular order. And on top of that, they exist completely on their own, because when we made Resolution, we didn't even know if we'd ever get to make a movie again. So that there was never intended to be another movie. And then The Endless is a completely different facet of the mythology. So if you're watching The Endless and you think, wow, this seems a little bit bigger than what I'm seeing right here on screen, then good news. There's a movie called Resolution that might help you out a little bit. But otherwise, you could finish The Endless without feeling like you missed anything.
Are the two of you? I'm going to hand this. Who just answered?
That was Aaron.
That was Aaron. Okay, I'm going to ask Justin. Are the two of you now dealing with big agencies? Are you taking those meetings? Are you guys the flavor of the month? Is it like being shot out of a cannon?
No, not really. I mean, in the case of all three movies, there's always been some more meetings around the time that they premiere at the film festival, or when the actual official distribution happens, which is very recently with The Endless. There's always more meetings, and there's always some opportunities. but usually, I mean, if your desire is as a filmmaker to tell unique stories and if the if your point of making these indie films was not just so you could go, for example, make King Kong or whatever. If the point was you really enjoy telling these stories about human beings and you wanted to be innovative with the mythology and the sci-fi aspects and all that stuff, if that's why you did it, there aren't a lot of opportunities that come your way that allow you to take that to the next level that someone else is going to provide for you. You need to continue to find ways to make that stuff kind of on your own for the most part. Doing 3 movies, it's almost like, well, each time the probability gets bigger that more people know that your stuff exists who have clout. And hopefully you've gotten some fans along the way that are people that can empower you to do bigger projects that you really believe in. But in our case, it's like, if our ambition by making indie films was to go make a zombie movie, for example, we could have done that 6 years ago. Those opportunities have always been there. So it's interesting. It's like, the movie comes out, there's some more meetings, but it's not like, it doesn't change our lives a whole lot.
Who gets the last word when it comes to directing? Do you guys fight?
No, it's this really weird thing where if we did fight often, we just wouldn't be co-directors. We'd be making our own movies, and that seems like bald obvious to me. But this is Aaron. But we disagree. It's rare, but it comes down to a fight extraordinarily rarely. The only times I can remember fighting with Justin are like interpersonal stuff, where it's just like, yeah, you spend enough time with someone, you fight every 6 months or so at the very minimum. But when it comes to directing choices, there's this very intimate, assumed respect of us both trying to make the same movie. We know that it's not like there's Aaron's movie and Justin's movie, and what we end up with is in between. That's not the case. It is very much us. We're both very much trying to make the exact same movie, and so the disagreements come up about how to get there, and they're very rare. And it's creepy to a lot of people, especially our actors, to just see how much we don't disagree. And nobody's a pushover. Justin's not a pushover. I hope I'm not a pushover. It's just that we are both very, very in sync. We both love the same stuff. We listen to the same kind of music and watch the same kind of movies and listen to the same kind of radio. And we're intrigued by the same ideas, and we're scared by the same ideas. And so we on set, there's not someone who's like the primary director and the sub director. It's just, if we aren't finding it and we're really disagreeing on something, again, which is rare, but if it happens, we realize that neither of us have the answer. There's a third answer out there that we haven't found yet. So it's never a compromise. It's actually always just two people trying to find the same point.
Well, and then, Aaron, if you're the cinematographer and the director, then you get 2 votes, right?
No, because cinematography is a beautiful craft and also art, but ultimately the direction of the film, the cinematography is just a service of the direction of the film. That's at least my own perception, and I really hope there aren't a bunch of cinematographers crumpling their Coke cans out there listening to me talk. But it's an art and it's a craft, but it's always in service of the end goal. And so, if Justin tells me I'm doing a shot wrong, it's something where, again, we're very in sync. So if it's that rare, I just listen for the most part. I just think, oh man, I must be really blowing something, and vice versa. He's right there. I mean, if Justin would hold the camera, he'd be the DP. So
I'm not sure if I'm buying what you two are selling right now. I
know it's disgusting.
And so then we can actually ask the same exact question when it comes to the editing. I mean, Aaron, can you come in as the director and override Justin's editing decisions? You know what I mean?
Has that ever happened?
No. Well, I mean, actually, I should probably explain how we edit.
So this is Justin now.
Yeah. How we edit is we have a third editor, this guy, Michael Felker, lovely dude. He edits while we're on set, and about a week after we're done shooting principal photography, he gives us the assembly cut. He usually makes some discoveries we probably wouldn't have made, because we tend to just edit the movie in our heads as we go, because we're both editors. And then we each take half of the movie and edit it, and then we trade halves and edit each other's halves. And they don't change that much. They don't change that much. It's just like literally trimming at that point, and just double and each person probably double checking the other person's like performance selects, and they're almost always in sync. And occasionally there'll just be a discussion of like, hey, why'd you choose this performance over this one? And you'll just talk about it. It's not a conflict. It's just like, oh, okay, I see it.
The major decisions that you would think of when you think about making a film, such as, oh, you intercut a scene, or you cut an entire scene, or whatever. Those decisions happen together, for sure. Those we don't do that while we're still splitting the project. When we trade each other's halves of the film, we then combine it, and at a certain point, it becomes frankly kind of a highly technical, boring process. But it is us in a room, and often involving our third editor, Michael Felker, and just trying to figure that little bit of it out. But the majority of it actually happens. Actually, no. The majority of the work happens with Michael Felker, our third editor, and then Justin and I get it for a little while and make the movie that we saw in our heads as close as we can.
Now I'm going to start picking this apart, and we've got 4 minutes to the break, but there's one character, and I'm going to point this directly at Justin. The character that lives out by himself, right, that draws the maps, that's committing suicide, right, that guy?
Yes, sir.
What's his name?
Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh, that's Carl. No, you can just go with Carl, right?
Carl.
Okay,
yeah,
Carl.
Crappy Carl.
Yeah, crappy Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, be straight with me. Is that based on somebody that you know? Also, before you answer that is one of the funniest characters that I have seen developed. It's spot on genius. Don't take that. Don't lose control with that. But it's a really amazing character. Is that based on somebody that you know?
Okay, so this is no one's ever asked this. This is a great question. So the character is a combination of a few things. His wardrobe, and the fact that this is something that was cut from the film. Originally, in fact, we may have shot the line. I can't remember now. It may have been cut from the script. I really don't remember. But Carl is someone who he used to basically exploit the occupants of the different loops. He discovered them, found out they were stuck, and he would go from loop to loop, basically overcharging them for things.
We shot it. I cut it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Overcharging them for things, and he was a friend of Chris, the quote unquote gun nut tweaker. And since he was friends with Chris, and we knew that about him, and he was someone that was invented during an improvisation and rehearsal in 2012 in our first movie Resolution, where the actor playing Chris said he said something about Carl, and then he like broke character for a second, looked at it and said, "Oh, by the way, I have a friend named Carl in this universe." So like, okay, that's awesome. But because of that, because he was friends with the gun nut tweaker, and because he was this guy who had been exploiting these people in this horrific situation, I had imagined him as being like the sort of white trash thugs who used to beat me up in high school, and that was his. He had like this just really dark exploitative side, and that came out also in his wardrobe. He's wearing dirty sneakers, dirty Dickies pants, and like this ripped up crappy shirt. And that was like what I remembered like the guys who used to beat me up in high school, what they looked like, and a buzzed head. But he on top of that, I thought when we were writing this movie, I thought that character, that was the one opportunity to do sort of heightened stylistic dialogue, sort of the way that that like Tarantino writes dialogue in his more heightened scenes.
Right.
I'm not comparing the way I write dialogue to Tarantino. I'm not nearly that good, but I thought it was an opportunity to like do that and I'd never been able to do that in writing before because of the situation he was in, because of who he was, and because of the moment in the film where you've really gone down the rabbit hole and it's really become, you know, a dark, dirty Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, yeah. We get to get savage and dirty for we're unfortunately two extraordinarily optimistic guys. So a lot of the time our dialogue doesn't get down and savage and dirty. But there's just one guy who's just so nihilistic and done with his situation that we got to really lash at.
Now with James's dialogue as Carl. In that scene, I've got a minute and a half, and then we've got to take a break. Was that written, or was that part James too as well? Because it is some of the. It was like, I cannot believe the stuff that is coming out of his mouth right now. Right? So help me with that.
Yeah, I don't want to take a single thing away from James Jordan, because when he walked in the room, he basically got the part as soon as they sat down.
Right.
I mean, he rocked it. That said, though, I also don't want to take anything away from my favorite person, Justin, who did write almost every word of it. And it was a wonderful combination of Justin understanding exactly what James would be delivering, and James being able to read what Justin was going for with that dialogue.
Yeah, I can totally get that, Aaron, and you have to be straight with me. It's a yes or no question.
Sure.
As you're reading those scenes with Carl, did you look at Justin like, dude, where have you been? Where's this coming from?
I'll be straight. No way, man. That made perfect sense to me.
It's cool. It's about as dark as it can get, and we all know what we're talking about here. You have to see the film, but it is as funny can be, and that just shows you about my twisted brain. But I wanted to ask about that first. So let's come back, and our guests tonight, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, we're talking about their film, The Endless. When we come back, we're going to talk about time loops and portals, an extraordinary part of this film. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out! That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly Ancient Life Oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guests, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. We're talking about their film, The Endless. It's been called mind-bending by Variety, heart-pounding by The Far-Sighted, hypnotic by Culture Crypt, masterful by We Got This Covered, ingenious by The Hollywood Reporter, pure magic by Modern Horrors, and one of the best sci-fi films of the year, Talk Film Society. The film is The Endless, and when you guys hear that, I mean, do you guys start to believe this about yourselves?
Oh, Jesus, no.
Exactly.
I mean, we're extraordinarily proud of it, but when we set out to make the movie, we were just going to go make we wanted to make a movie that was important to us, and we just hoped that the audience would be along for that ride. But definitely, when we started making this movie, we did not think that it would be something. We thought people would like it. We thought it was a good movie. We had a lot of trust and faith in it. But we frankly thought it was a little too weird to be something that would be actually embraced. And it seems like everyone's into it.
Did you, either one of you can answer this, but did you guys listen to, Fade to Black or Coast to Coast AM or other late night, conspiracy UFO radio?
Yeah, we love those shows. We love those shows.
Yeah,
we had to do a long drive in Texas, across rural Texas, in what was that? Was that last July?
Last year, yeah.
Last July or August? No, September. Fantastic Fest. Yeah, and we're just driving through rural Texas at night for about 6 hours, just listening to episode after episode of Coast to Coast.
Well, hang on, you're missing the most important connection here. Basically, one of the very first things we ever worked on was a short that Justin directed, and I was the cinematographer, and it's called AM, and it's basically about a girl who is driving in the middle of the desert at night, and she's listening to AM radio, and the AM radio host starts talking to her, and it's kind of like a Twilight Zone-esque short film that's really great.
You know what? We can redo it. We can make it a feature film.
I mean, you're talking to me right now. I mean, this is actually closing the circle, so this is incredible.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I know who could be the host on the radio.
Is it you doing?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'll volunteer. I'll read. I'll do a read with you guys, but because that element of this, because everything that is covered throughout the film is what goes on not only this program, but Coast to Coast. And it's been doing this for years and years and years. And so the fans of not only this show, but of the genre, they go and see this film. And I know that you wrote it, Justin, for yourselves. You guys made the films for yourself. But the audience gets that connection. They're like, this film was made for me. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You on the one hand, the films we make, they are very personal, and we, for better or for worse, have been empowered to make these very personal films. And what I mean to say is that it's not like we've ever been like provided an opportunity, like someone was like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm going to write you a check, go make your movie. It's not like that. It's like we're probably going to have to like bust tables and work on commercials and stuff we may not want to do. Things like that to like save money to make a film. And since we do that, we're typically in a position where we have final cut. We get to basically do whatever we want, and we do whatever we're passionate about. Now, that said, there is a part of both of us the whole time we're doing it that is we do want to satisfy an audience. And I think that you hope that your interests align with your audience. And we've also never been in a situation where we felt like we had to do something we didn't want to do to satisfy a potential audience someday.
Somebody just tweeted out, by the way, that Carl needs to have his own film. I'm just letting you know that.
You aren't wrong. You aren't wrong.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. He really his part in the film was just so pivotal, and James is just absolutely incredible. Now let's get to this time travel stuff. Time portal, time loop aspect of the film. I'll throw this out to Justin first, Justin, since you penned the film. How did you decide to incorporate this into the film? Because when you do that, you start to go down that road, now it gets complex. You have to edit the film. You have to have a story that is now potentially going in loops, and the science of time travel and time loops, it's very, very technical. So how did you handle that, Justin?
Well, we knew that we wanted to explore the theme of basically not repeating past mistakes. That was one of the themes of the film. And a time loop was a good way to do that. And we also knew we wanted to make a film that was in the same universe as our first film, Resolution. And again, being very careful that, we weren't making a sequel to a movie that 10 people have seen. And that's kind of like where the idea of loops came from, because I don't want to spoil how Resolution ends, but the final line of Resolution basically strongly indicates that there's a phenomenon of loops going on. So that's kind of like that's the conception of the idea. And then in terms of writing it, when I was writing it, I just really saw it as something that if one were a physicist, for example, Hal, there was probably a way to explain what was happening in the language of math. And at the same time, that language of math would be describing a sort of primordial geological force that is there in that area, sort of like how people speak about like places like Sedona.
Right.
And it was also somewhat based on Stephen King has a lesser known book called Desperation that doesn't deal with loops, but it does sort of deal with an otherworldly geology. So there were all those things, but I think some of the more interesting things that have come about have been to do with loops and explaining it. Has been since the movie has come out. We were listening to this podcast by a podcast of Alan Moore, who wrote The Watchmen and V for Vendetta and From Hell, a very famous comic book graphic novel writer. And he was talking about his belief in, and I had to look it up just now to like remember what it is, but it's basically a belief called eternalism, or I think it's solid state universe theory is the other name for it.
Yep.
And that also links to general belief in Hinduism and ancient Egypt of, it's not quite called eternalism, it's like eternal return or something like that. General philosophy that often goes through spirituality. And it's just the idea that for example, when you pass away, there is nowhere else for you to really go except sort of unconsciously back to the beginning. And that you're sort of unconsciously living a very similar life over and over. that this, specifically if we use the term eternalism, I think it's somewhat supported by ideas in theoretical physics of time being the fourth dimension, and that being and that mathematically suggesting that we only experience time as linear, but actually time is this very complicated patchwork of events that's much more complicated than the way we experience it. But yeah, those are some thoughts on it.
Did you go and research? I'm speaking to Justin right now. Aaron, you can jump in, but just say it's Aaron, okay? But Justin, did you go and look at specific cases of time travel from the past, like maybe John Teeter, or do some research to some of the physicists and theoretical physicists that deal with time travel?
It's funny. Our next movie has this really famous quote by Einstein in it. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was basically a letter written to his buddy's widow, and the letter said something like this. It was like, we're obviously both mourning for your husband, and I'm very sincerely sorry for your loss. But your husband, as a physicist, knew as I did that time is a stubbornly persistent illusion. Yeah. I think that's right, actually.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the idea is this, because by the way, John Titor didn't really factor into it because the movie's not quite time travel, and weirdly, time loops and time travel have a shockingly small amount narratively to do with each other. And I say narratively meaning just in the language of film. But the this is Aaron, by the way. Sorry. But the idea of that we think about time and actually some of the ways that we're able to even emotionally cope with the passage of time, which is something that all of our movies really deal with and all of our future movies deal with, is somebody once put it was probably Alan Moore on that podcast, but somebody once put it as, we humans see time as us being in a convertible, driving past buildings in a straight line. That's the passage of time. And because we don't see the buildings anymore, we imagine that they just crumbled into dust, right?
Right.
And that's ridiculous because we understand as humans what object permanence is because we are older than 5 years old. And if we can understand that as humans in the third dimension, we should be able to understand in the fourth dimension where that thing still actually exists, like it really exists. The event still exists, not in our past, but in something else's present, and that's kind of the philosophy that we subscribe to, both of us, me and Justin, and it's something that a lot of our movies are written around, but it's also a way of emotionally coping with the fact that time will eventually pass to the point that all this goes away.
Well, and there's another part, because you're right, time travel and time loops are two different things. It does get a little complicated, but Einstein directly addressed the idea of time loops, and I find that part fascinating. And then in the film, when one of you encounters the tent, I don't want to give a whole lot away here, but now we're dealing with either time travel or something existing from the distant past, and in this case, I guess it's the Civil War, right? Am I right? I'm trying to...
It's around that era. We imagine it as a little bit earlier and more in like almost pioneer times.
Yes. Okay.
But that's almost the same.
Yeah. So. The point being, it's from the distant past. So now, me as I was trying to figure out as the movie is going along, am I dealing with, is this time travel now going on? Is this parallel worlds that they're encountering in these little patches of land out there? Or is it, specifically time loops? And all of those are left for the viewer to kind of figure out, because we've got something now from the distant past being there. Was that intentional?
Well, there's an interesting thing when you're telling stories like this, where it's like, oh, what information do you keep in that's absolutely necessary for the audience to have a general comprehension of the film? And then there's stuff that everyone talks about while you're writing the script, and you ultimately leave it out and decide it's not totally important. And so here's the thing that'll clarify this for you, is that those sort of like Gandalf staff-looking geological formations, sort of like upside-down stalactites?
Yep.
Those form the borders of the areas of individual loops. And depending on how big the radius or diameter is of literally the circle that those upside-down stalactites form, the larger the radius or diameter gets, the longer the loop is. So the specific one that you're talking about, that loop is contained within the dozen or so upside down stalactites that you see around that tent.
Right.
And that loop began, in pioneer times, but it's been repeating the same 5 seconds ever since that guy's been stuck. And again, the reason why it's so short is because literally the circle of those upside down stalactites is smaller. And if you look at Camp Arcadia, for example, that's about a 10-year loop, and it's contained within, those upside down stalactites probably form a circle that's or a diameter that's about a half a mile.
Yeah, and the idea here is, we actually wanted to just think of immortality as both a blessing and a curse. And right now, a lot of the narrative of films when they talk about living forever is that it's a curse. And I'm actually, for me personally, for both of us actually, the jury's a little bit out on that, because death of course creates this finite point in time where all of the sum of all the things that you've done get judged or not, and you at least get to say, okay, if global warming's all going to kill us or whatever, at least someday I'll just die and it won't matter anymore, or something like that. And for us, we were trying to create a fate that was worse than death and worse than hell, and the tent that you're talking about is that. That's the thing that scares the absolute dickens out of us, is something like being in that tent in that movie.
Yeah, for 5 seconds, right? Over and over and over. It's just a frightening thought. I mean, seriously, you just contemplate that for a minute. And if there was ever hell, well, that would be it, certainly. Okay, so now back to the stalactites. That's what you call them. What I thought they were. Okay, all right. Okay. I'm not going to give away anything in the film, but I'm going to ask you a question. There's a scene when they're on the porch, and there's a little bit of light that's coming through the little green glass circles that are everywhere, that are hanging. And at that moment, I don't know if I was hallucinating or not, and I went back and watched it a few times in the film to confirm this. It looks like there's the face of an alien in the glass.
Oh, man.
Oh, so that wasn't... Are you telling me that wasn't intentional?
No, I don't. No, it wasn't intentional, but that's fun. Now I feel bad saying that it's not, because now
you're killing me.
And now it's gonna be really disappointing when people hear this, that it's not there.
Okay, so in this scene, it's they're out on the porch and the three moons are up and stuff, and it just at that moment the moonlight comes through the glass, the circle that's hanging from the tree or whatever. And as it, and it's right there. And I turned to Rita, my wife. I said, "Did you see that?" And she goes, "What?" I said, "There was E.T. in that glass." Really? And I thought, now I'm starting to figure out this film, right? Which obviously I was way off. But we went and I rewound it, and I said, "Look." She goes, "Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, you're absolutely right." So I didn't imagine it, and so there you go. So. That is strange. You guys need to go back and look at the specific scene that I'm talking about, because if that's an accident, it's brilliant. It's some things like that, and it's not imagined. It's actually there.
Huh?
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out.
It's a perfect alien head with eyes and a nose and a little mouth and, a little green version of a gray alien face, and it's right there in the glass.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about this.
Okay,
I'm extraordinarily excited about this.
Question for you.
Yes.
If you do believe, do you have the belief that extraterrestrial life has visited us?
They're visiting us right now as we are talking, yes.
Okay. Do you believe they are in that the sort of standardized image of the little gray man? The
short answer is yes, of course. The longer answer to that is the amount of life that is out there, which is nearly an infinite type of number. Okay, so when we look at our Milky Way and we have, potentially, just with simple math, 40 billion, that's with a B, Earth-like planets. Okay, 40 billion. There's a trillion stars. Okay, so just in our Milky Way, forget about the rest of the universe. So how many different life forms are on those 40 billion planets? What if it's an easy number like 1,000 out of 40 billion? That would be more advanced than us by 10,000 years or whatever. These are easy numbers for us to achieve. Well, how many of them know about this planet? Well, the number is extraordinary. So, you two, you may sound alike on the radio, but you look completely different. And if you, the two of you, and then 5 other samples of people from around this planet, male, female, fat, tall, short, white, yellow, red, black, it doesn't matter, right? And you went and visited another planet, they wouldn't even think that you were Earthlings. You would potentially be viewed as different from different planets. What if you took a dog with you, right? So when you think about that, what could be potentially visiting here? Yeah, gray. It could be a variety of things. Okay, I'll throw this out to the both of you. Did you hear about the press release? Scientific Journal, 40 different scientists published white paper 3 months ago, said that octopus here on Earth had to have been brought here, that it's too alien to have been developed here on Earth. Now, think about the significance of that. Those eggs, whole octopus, actually came here from another planet. And because it's so unique as to all the other species that are here. Well, potentially, octopus are actually alien. And this isn't me talking with a tinfoil hat on. I'm talking about science has presented this. And that's an example of another life form that could potentially be here. And then, you remember the movie Arrival?
Yeah, we love that movie.
Okay. Great. Octopus, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. The design is similar. It's funny. I did read that article, and I also read how highly intelligent octopi are. Yeah. And now I can't eat them.
I know.
I hate them. Oh my gosh.
So bad.
They were delicious, and now they are absolutely geniuses that I should have never eaten.
Most of them are probably a lot smarter than I am.
That's right. Calamari is not in my diet anymore. And and then you heard about the Japanese octopus that was predicting the World Cup.
Oh, give me that. No, I don't know about that.
So the octopus correctly predicted the World Cup, and then the night before Japan lost, they ate him in Japan for sushi, and then they lost the next round.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine if it's just like, no, I'm an alien. I'm telling you the truth.
I'm telling you that.
Beat the hell out of you.
I see the future. Don't do it. But there you go. All right, now I've got to head towards a break. So when we come back, I want to talk about the 3 moon part. Now that the ET has been removed from the glass circle, which I thought that there was something there. You guys need, you know what? When you go back and watch that, accidents like a really good guitar solo, those accidents that happen in a good solo turned out to be what people talk about in the future. That accident in the film may have happened for a reason, and you need to think about that for a second.
Will you take a picture or a video of it and tweet it at us? Because I think we all need to see this. Yeah. That sounds really cool.
And also, you unintentionally just quoted Almost Famous.
Oh yeah,
there's a part where the lead singer, played by Billy Crudup, goes to a little kid and goes, "You want to know about music? The mistakes."
Let's take a break right here, but it's really true when you think about it. Yeah. It's really true. It's the mistakes that people remember. Right? There you go. Our guest tonight, Justin Benson, Aaron Moorhead, creators of the film The Endless. More of this conversation when we come back. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi folks, what can I say without making claims? CBD is truly the buzzword for health. What does it do? Government institutions will not allow me to say what this wonderful oil does for us. But I can say it's non-GMO and organic. I can say it's 0.003 THC, which in plain English means you won't get high. There are those that want to squash your freedom to buy natural products. Fight back with your purchase power. In the end, it is you that takes care of your health. Go to ancientlifeoil.com. One more time, ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Numana, emergency food storage for you and your family, made in America. Use the promo code Jimmy. Every order over $100 gets an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Just go to Numana, click on the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. Our guests tonight, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, we're talking about their film, The Endless. And now, the success of the film, what does it suggest? I'm going to throw this to Aaron. Aaron, the success of the film, does that indicate the thirst for knowledge in these subject matters, that people are out there looking for this, and does that impress you? You know, we have everything going on, Ancient Aliens and Coast to Coast AM and the recent stuff with UFOs in the mass media over the last 6 months. You know, that they are coming to this film because they want answers.
Yeah, our movie begins with a Lovecraft quote that talks about the fear of the unknown being the oldest human emotion. And that is true. We believe it. That's why we opened the film with it. But fascination with the unknown is probably just as familiar to anyone that would listen to this show, but also anyone who watches movies or anyone who has a pulse, really. And I don't think that I've never met anybody that says, "Oh, I don't like the Twilight Zone, I don't like the X-Files," or anything like that. Things that tickle our fancy. And we've been taught either by trial by fire, or actually it's just been said to us that audiences are dumb, and we keep on getting surprised at how smart and sophisticated they are, and how complex the subject matter they want to watch actually ends up being. So the fact that a movie like The Endless, which was made on, with a paperclip and some bubble gum and a little bit of money, and was mostly just a movie that we thought was going to be really interesting, and we trusted that everyone else would as well. But it's fairly bizarre without being full on art house in any way. It's still got very commercial sensibilities. The fact that people have been able to embrace that gives a lot of hope for not just movies and movie watching, but just for the fact that people are still very much interested in the unknown.
Now, I'm going to throw this over to Justin, and that is the rope. Okay? One of the coolest scenes in the film. There's a lot of really spectacular moments in the film. But the rope sequence was very clever and also very original. I had never seen anything like that, the idea behind it. Okay, so Justin, where did that come from?
There's two primary objectives in mind in coming up with that scene. One is that you really want to give people the thrill ride of being frightened of the unknown. That is one of the few ways you can get people into a movie theater to watch independent film when you don't have, Jake Gyllenhaal or Scarlett Johansson in the movie to hook people in to get them in the theater. The thing you can do that's in your power, usually as a filmmaker, is you can give that roller coaster ride of being scared. And there was something about that idea of playing tug of war with something massive in the distance. And it's massive because the rope's going up into the air, up into the sky, up into the darkness. And you don't quite know what's at the other end of that rope. Now, that is true. That is the objective there is to give a thrill, is to scare your audience and give them that fun ride. Now, that also said, that's a way of doing that is very cheap. That is, it requires a rope, it requires the night sky, and in our case, I'm reluctant to say this, a pulley in a tree, and your key grip pulling on a rope on the other end, and then getting it, and then Aaron crushing the blacks way down in visual effects, removing the trees, putting some moons, making it look like it's actually going into nowhere. yeah, it was something that in our filmmaking toolbox, and also if on this very low budget movie, if everyone left, we felt like we could accomplish this. We could do it. It was something that we could execute on our own if we had to. We actually found it to be much more complex when we went to go do it than we previously thought. But yeah, it was that. It was coming up with set pieces that were simultaneously thrilling and also things that we would be able to do on our own.
Well, see, now there were scene to scene to scene, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, where the audience is left to their own imagination. And you don't know if this is actually supernatural or something strange, or maybe it's just in the Camp Arcadia population's minds, right? You don't really know. And then that rope scene comes along, and now the question is kind of answered for everybody, including you two as being friends there, that there is something else going on here. And it's a terrifying scene. It's really well done and very simple, but it now suggests to everybody that there's something else going on, and you've got to figure it out as an audience.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. But there is there's also an interesting thing. You saying that made me think of this, is that typically in stories about cults, they take you to you start to get convinced that there's possibly something otherworldly at play, and then it's pulled back as no, that it wasn't that at all. And some good examples would be True Detective actually would be a pretty good example, because they are technically investigating a cult, and then you feel like it's going to be something supernatural. And then another good one would be like Kevin Smith's Red State. The final moment, it turns out that the supernatural noise in the distance is nothing. Nothing is the neighbors. It's not supernatural. Ty West's The Sacrament is marketed as being, the key art looks like it's going to be a supernatural something, and you watch it and it's like, oh no, it's not that. And the Leftovers is another one. It's like, oh, there's a cult in it. They might be worshiping something supernatural. As the show goes on, you realize it's probably a more natural occurrence. There was something fun about flipping that and just leaning totally into the otherworldly, and that the cult is actually doing something supernatural.
Yeah, because a lot of films, of course, there's plenty of films where the supernatural actually happens. But a lot of the time, you kind of just assume it because you're watching a movie. You're watching a vampire or werewolf movie or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, you're in a world where the supernatural is real. And we wanted to make it our world where the supernatural is not real, and then all of a sudden something like it is, and you truly have to deal with it emotionally as well as in the visceral way that, it's not always benevolent.
Well, then there was, again, for everybody listening to us, we're not going to give away anything in the film. I'm not going to do that. But there are elements in the film as these things start to unfold, and I feel safe talking about this now because I've seen it tweeted now about 15 times in Twitter, which is the multiple moons, the 3 moons. And when that scene happens, that's another time where, as a viewer to the film, you're like, okay, things are not normal here, right? Now, whose idea was it for the 3 moons, and where did it come from?
I think that one was a collaboration. I remember what it was when Justin's character had left the camp, we needed something that basically said there's an amount of time at which this deal expires, basically. It was almost a purely screenwriting function originally, where it was just, how do we know that they have to leave now or else? Otherwise, if the 3 moons thing didn't exist, then one is the audience wouldn't be able to track what's really going on. And 2 is there's just no sense of urgency. There's no need to hurry. And so the phrase for it is the ticking time bomb that of course Alfred Hitchcock has talked about, the bomb under the table. And I think that was the original conversation. I don't remember who said it should be 3 moons or not.
I think I was trying to figure out things that I knew. There's several things at play. Trying to figure out things that I knew Aaron could do with 2D compositing.
Oh yeah.
And you had composited so many moons into our movies. It was like, okay, well that makes sense. But it's not just that makes it sound arbitrary. The other big thing was that it needed to be something that, for example, when you think back on your childhood and you remember things, sometimes things are much weirder than like you accepted them as a child. That you grow up and you think back and you're like, wait a second, that was actually really weird. And for example, if you grew up somewhere where there was the Northern Lights, and the Northern Lights weren't a commonly known thing, you'd be like, wait a second. When I was little, was there really a bunch of weird psychedelic colors in the sky?
Right.
And then I moved away from that, and I haven't seen it since. Did that even happen? And then you'd go back and be like, oh, I guess it did. And someone would describe to you the science of it, and be like, okay, cool, that makes sense. 3 Moons seemed like something like that, where you can just barely make it logical. There's something Hal says in the movie. It's like an atmospheric mirroring effect. And it's like, okay, I guess.
Sure, I don't know.
That makes as much sense as an explanation of the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Well, and see, there's another interesting twist here. Now, I didn't write the film. I didn't direct the film. I'm on the other side of the fence. But the second that the 3 moons are revealed, now it's not a local situation. It's not localized. It's not some phenomena that's happening at Camp Arcadia. There is something else going on here that is, well, it's off planet. You have 3 moons in the sky. And that suggests a whole nother possibility here as to what is going on, not only at Camp Arcadia, but, in our lives in general.
Yeah, and it's something that's one of those fun things as filmmakers that we feel like we know what happened, and we set down rules for ourselves and made sure that the movie follows them. But we don't always explicitly say what they are. Outside of, for example, at the end of the 3 moons is the ascension, whatever that means, and that's a part of the mystery of the film as well. But how exactly the 3 moons happen, Justin and I have an answer for that, but we just don't like to say it because it's just it opens the mystery box in a way that's not quite so fun, for you as a viewer and for us as the filmmaker.
And I want to talk about the death cult aspect of it, because that's the terminology and the verbiage that you guys chose for the film. Very touchy subject. A lot of people died. There is not only in society but in pop culture, when you go back and look at something like Heaven's Gate or other situations like that have happened around the world, you're getting into a zone here that is uncomfortable for many. How did you decide to tackle that without the blowback coming back onto you guys and using that as a tool for writing a film?
Without being too spoilery with the answer, I think that we ultimately felt like there is a reveal in the movie that you could argue you're actually not necessarily actually watching a movie about a death cult. Now, you can argue this many different ways. Technically, yes, maybe in some ways, but in a lot of ways, it's so hard to answer the question without spoiling it. But there is a story reason why it doesn't ultimately. It's ultimately not analogous to death cults from our real world. Is a good way to put it.
Maybe another way. Let me try something else, and I'm so sorry if I misspeak here. A death cult is only a tragedy if what they're doing isn't real. Or, you know what I mean? Like if what they're doing is just ending their lives, and that's the end of it. In the case of this movie, there's something else happening. But I don't know how else to put it without starting to actually talk about the mechanics in the movie, because we're talking about the third act at this point, you know?
Right. I'm so uncomfortable, even on this program, talking about Heaven's Gate and what went on down there, because I have my own belief system too as well. I've seen all the evidence that I know, that I need personally to know that we are not alone and we are being visited here. We talked about that earlier. So there's that part of it. But the Heaven's Gate situation, I don't want any of my audience members to listen to me and go take some advice, right? Or treat that as advice or be reactionary. So I'm always very cautious about that. And to address it in the film like you guys did, I thought it was brilliantly done. But it's also a zone that most people just completely avoid. You know, they don't want to bear that responsibility. Aaron, go ahead. You can answer.
Oh no, go ahead. Oh, I was. This is Justin actually, and it's a thing where again it's hard to talk about without spoiling it, but there's so much there's so much acknowledged dishonesty within the story about the claims that are similar to things that happened in Heaven's Gate, that ultimately it does become something where it's like it's hard to imagine someone would be offended by it, and then if you separate out just the issue of suicide, when we were making the film, this is really dark, but when we were making the film, my mom took her own life, and even being in that situation and then making this film that had suicide in it, I didn't feel offended by anything in the story. And granted, we developed this and I wrote it, so that's easy to say. But I still didn't. Even having that traumatic event and having it that close to home, I didn't feel. I didn't feel like anything in it was offensive.
Well, the way it was put. I don't know how to react to that as a show host. That's okay. Let's stay right there. What you just said is exactly what I'm talking about, right? So you're saying that your mother took her own life, and you were still able to pursue the film from that angle, because if you were comfortable with it, with your own personal experience that you were going through, then so would the audience.
Yeah. We actually talked about it, and it was like, there was. We still do shoot those scenes. There are scenes of. It gets spoilery talking about whether it's actually suicide or not, but there are scenes in it that somewhat graphically deal with it. But it's all through such a prism of science fiction, and it's also heavily linked to other prominent themes in the film of conformity and anti-conformity and not repeating your own mistakes and that it's sort of in service of this sort of invented mythology and otherworldly elements, that it just even with that event in my life and just right even at that time, I didn't feel as a survivor of it that it was it didn't trigger anything for me.
Did you guys you mentioned earlier Sedona, and I don't want that to get away from me. Did you visit sites like Sedona and Joshua Tree and maybe ECETI, where there have been many reports of vortexes and loops and special areas geographically? And did you go out and talk to the people that live there?
No, we didn't. We didn't go out and do any particular research. That said, though, we live in Southern California, and we have a fascination with I guess oddities is the word. And so we've been to a lot of those places, but it wasn't in so much as a pilgrimage or research as it was out of just bald curiosity. And so we end up there, and we think it's really interesting. And we'll see sometimes people have founded a commune out there, or whatever's happening. But it wasn't that we sat down with people who have had the experience purposefully in order to make this film. It was more that sometimes we'd bump into them, or sometimes we'd listen to them call into, say a show like this, or we would just read about it somehow. It comes from all places.
I've been to Sedona and I've seen the spiraling trees and I've looked it up and I still don't understand.
Yeah, I know, right?
I feel like no one actually does. And in fact, I think when you look it up, there's really just theories. There's like, it's probably this, but even like people who research it are kind of baffled. I think I could be wrong on that, but
have either of you seen anything in the sky that you can't explain?
I wish so bad. Have you? You haven't, right?
I've never seen anything in the sky I can't explain. But my dad is a huge skeptic of everything, and just like hardcore atheist, never believe, like hardcore science, and like never believed anything. Then all of a sudden, like a month ago, he's like, "Yeah, so I saw a UFO out by Mammoth. I never told you. But
wow, you got to tell me that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love it when it happens to those types too, as well.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing. I'm one of those types, and I deeply want it to happen. And I have a friend from childhood who I went and played pool with, over Christmas break in Florida, and he's just like, "You come over one night, and I'll show you UFOs. You come over one night." And I kept on thinking like, and I was like, "Hey, Chris, that's crazy. Of course that's crazy." He's like, "No, man. One night, just come on over one night." By the way, he lives in a suburb. He doesn't live in the middle of nowhere, so he's like talking about just finding UFOs anywhere. And I was really into it, but I wasn't able to slip on over because I was really hoping he was totally right.
All you have to do, and I'm being serious about this, it's a guarantee. There are no guarantees in life, but I'm giving you one now. All you have to do is go up to ECETI Ranch up in Washington. You've heard about the place. Just go up to ECETI and spend one night there and go out on the Field of Dreams, and where everybody gathers every night. Every night there's probably, any night of the week, there's 50 people out there. But just go out there and spend a couple of hours, and that is the epiphany. I'm just telling you.
Hey, can I ask just a dumb... the skeptic's question isn't the answer, but just someone who hasn't seen it. But, like, does nobody try to record this?
Oh, it's recorded every day. Oh, they've got there's thousands of videos.
Okay,
now, I'm going to say it like this. If I had somebody that was a hardcore skeptic, atheist, scientist type that laughed at all of this, and that's where I would take them, and I would just sit and laugh. Wow. Because it's crazy. We were up there last year. We're going to be up there in August 9th through the 12th. We're having a Fade to Black conference up there. It's called Soul Tech. And I already know what's going to happen up there. But we were there last year for 4 nights. And the stuff that happened to us every single night, we had about 150 people out there all at the same time. And you've never heard so many loud laughs and screams and oohs and ahs all happening at the same time with stuff that I just simply, I can't explain. I can't explain. I'll give this to you. The audience has heard this story way too many times. But we're out there, and just imagine this, okay? Just unplug for a second and imagine this. We're out in the middle of this field. Lights are off, surrounded by forest, and Mount Adams is in front of us. And from the south, Mount Adams is to the north. So over our shoulders, somebody yells, and I turn around and I look, and now going from the south to the northwest at an angle is around your classic disc thing, and I'm going to say it's about a mile high. It's not very high, okay? It's low. It's not like it's 50,000 feet or a star or whatever. It's low, and you can see it. And it just comes across, and it was so low I thought that I could hear it, and it was pink, and it was like glowing, and it was a disc. Anyway, so it goes across, and it's coming right over us. And as it gets to 12 o'clock, right above us, and everybody's yelling and screaming, and I'm looking at it, right as it gets to 12 o'clock, it flashes like a camera.
Wow.
And then as it goes past us, it started to turn like blue. And it was blue and pink, and it just flew away. Now, I can't, and here I am trying to talk rationally and talk about this experience, but I wasn't alone. There was 150 people with me, and we all saw this thing. And that's it. I'm just going to leave it out there on the table for the both of you. You just figure that out. I can't. And it was photographed and videoed, and it was just absolutely extraordinary. And I loved every minute of it. I can't tell you what it was. I can only tell you what we saw.
I'm so jealous of that.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I'm excited about a day that we're all together in Washington watching that happen again, or something like it, you know?
Yeah, it's ECETI Ranch, man. I'll talk to you more about it tomorrow, but if we could drag one of you up there, I like I said, I can guarantee. I can guarantee.
You can get both of us up there very, very easily.
Yeah, that's not tough. That sounds exciting.
Okay, let's take a break. We're going to come back and got to get this last break in. And Aaron Moorhead, Justin Benson, creators of the film The Endless. And when we come back, there's a couple of other little tasty little morsels in the film that I want to get some answers on. And one of them is, how does the car drive on an empty tank of gas? More on all of that when we come back. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
What can I say about the most popular tea on the internet? And what do customers say about Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? A lot. But by federal law, we at GetTheTea.com cannot make claims to how this product can enhance your health. We cannot even post our testimonies without being in compliance. So how do we get past the hump? Try our products at GetTheTea.com and see for yourself. You can send us a testimony, but we just can't post it. Bummer. Our products are GMO-free and organic. We pride ourselves in being the best we can be, and we urge you to take charge of your health. We're 11 years strong, and many of our customers have shared their successes with friends and family. Protect your colon. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. Get the tea. KGRA.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Justin at Justin Benson. You can follow Aaron at Aaron. Aaron, I wanted to ask you, Huntington, why are there too many other Aaron Moorheads out there that you have to do that?
Wait, say that one more. Ask that one more time. Sorry.
Huntington, is there too many other Aaron Moorheads out there?
No, actually, you know what's funny? I've met one other one. He was kind enough to show up to a screening of The Endless once. It was amazing.
That's trippy. Did he have the same birth date?
No. Well, actually, I didn't ask because I didn't want to like actually look at him and touch him and then cancel each other out. You know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I do hate that when that happens. Now, spoiler alert, everybody. House of the Rising Sun. Is that your real voice?
When we sing it? Oh yeah.
Really?
Wait, I mean, it better be. I mean, what do we hire someone who's somehow? Like, yeah.
What was that like, man? Have you always had those pipes?
Yeah, I was born with them, brother. No, it's funny. The House of the Rising Sun thing is because it's actually it's an old poem that is in the public domain. So as long as you aren't singing any famous version of the song, you just make up your own. You can sing House of the Rising Sun, the lyrics that everybody knows. And so so in the I sing it twice in the film, and the first time it was both times it's the first time it's deliberately bad because it's to annoy Justin, you know.
Right.
And it's this weird version that you've never heard before. And actually I like that a lot because there's quite a few famous versions of the song, and I like that that although The Endless takes place in our world, there's just kind of like these odd Baroque things that are just a little bit off, and us having our own version of our own sing-along version of House of the Rising Sun is one of them. And then in the karaoke, I was giving it my best shot. I was actually not trying to annoy Justin. So
well, you were on pitch though. There was a couple of moments there. I was like, "Is he going to get there?" And you did.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we hired Josh Groban briefly to come in and redo my vocals, but then we realized we couldn't afford him. But actually, that wasn't the important thing. It was that I was better.
Then Josh, yeah, I can hear that. Josh would have blown it.
Yeah.
He's overrated. He's overrated. Yeah. Now I want to get back to a couple of other things for me. This is me asking the questions. In that today, I think that too much is put on special effects and CG to support a film that can't hold its own as far as the story or the script writing. In the case of The Endless, it's I think the special effects are there for salt and pepper to kind of improve things. It is story driven. I'm going to give this to Justin because you wrote the film. Justin, Why is that today that the story and good script writing has kind of gotten away from us? And here, it's the script and the story that supports the special effects.
Man, that is a deep question. That's a tough one. I don't know. I'll start off by saying this. I was talking to someone the other day about the current state of cinema and what gets released theatrically versus going to video on demand or straight to Netflix. And we're in pretty good shape. I don't think we're in that bad of shape. I mean, there's a lot of really wonderful films being released theatrically right now that certain distributors, especially there's one called A24, that has really figured out how to market these smaller character-driven films and to get people into movie theaters watching them. Now, that said, here's a crazy thought. In the year 2018, if Pulp Fiction were released in 2018, it might be a straight-to-VOD release. If a company like A24 didn't pick it up. Things have changed. There was a point in the 90s where you could justify spending a $20 million P&A marketing campaign on an indie film, and a lot of people would show up to see it, and they could do really well financially, and they could recoup their costs and all that. It would be more risky today. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's changed in the behavior of the consumer. But obviously Marvel movies do extraordinarily well. And I'm not saying Marvel movies are bad films in any way, but what you just said, are they somewhat reliant on very big action sequences that use a lot of CGI and visual effects? It's like, yeah, of course, they do that. The third act of every Marvel movie, if I'm not mistaken, is a big CGI battle scene, right? Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's what you go to the movie to see,
right? And that's a lot of fun, and that's great. I don't know what it is that we don't get things like Pulp Fiction anymore. I don't know. And it's funny to think, it's like, yeah, Pulp Fiction were released in 2018. It wouldn't be like a cultural landmark film. It would be one of those. It'd do well. It would do well, but it wouldn't be like a big deal probably. And that's not because it's a bad movie in any way. It's just the culture has changed.
When you I feel like I just interrupted you. Did I?
No, not really.
Okay. When you watch the trailer of The Endless, I think it's also a little bit misleading because the second half of the trailer, you've got all of the these explosions and these cut scenes in it that don't necessarily represent the film, which is story driven and character driven. The special effects are there to enhance. That being said, as budget constrained as you guys may be, the special effects in the film kick ass. There is, and so I want to ask you about a couple of them. The one scene where Aaron is on the path, and in the background there's an explosion in the trees. There's a puff, right? Right? Was that CG or was that an explosion, a real explosion in the background?
Actually, I'm just making sure. Do you mean where he's jogging and then that big cargo container moves a little bit? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that sequence of stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Some of that was real and some of it's not. We there's a funny story. I'll tell you how we shot it, and then I'll talk about the visual effects. We had this big plan of how to shoot it, and it's out by this cargo container that is adjacent to one of our shooting locations. It's still a bit of a hike, but it's kind of this oddity, even for me and Justin, where we show up there and it's a kind of a desert path, and there's a cargo container out there. Which, by the way, you might just think, okay, sure, but what the hell is it doing there, and how did it get there? I mean, that's a thing that is normally on a semi-truck. It's in the middle of the desert after a long hike. We have no idea what it's doing out there, and that's why we wanted to shoot by it. And so we arrived. We started setting up this relatively complicated scene that you see in the movie, and a gentleman shows up and he's like, "Hey, y'all are on my property and you can leave right now. And he was not having us being on his property. And here's the thing, though, is we genuinely thought it was public property, and we thought we had the proper permit. It was a very innocent mistake. We would have loved to have gotten permission. We weren't trying to steal anything. We just thought we had the proper permit. And so we were able to convince him to give us 30 minutes to get the heck off his property. And so that scene ended up getting shot in like half an hour. And so the cargo container bumping, that's a CGI effect. And then the sun getting blotted out, that's a CGI effect. And then, as you mentioned, there's kind of this thing that happens behind him, which is a tree falling. And as much as we would have loved to have chopped down a tree in that moment, that is a CGI tree falling. But all of those things, if you'll notice the way I'm describing them, are way in the distance. And that's just part of our tricks. That's just part of the way that we're able to build visual effects that feel real, is that almost everything happens in the distance. And I don't mean that it's small on screen and therefore there's less work to do. I just mean that there's a specialty we have that we're able to accomplish with the film.
Yeah, it doesn't dominate. And you bring up a really good example of, the way Marvel or Thor, Ragnarok, whatever, where everything is shot on green screen. Everything there is not real, and you're tricked into it, and that's part of the fun. Your brain is convinced that what you're seeing on the screen is real. These special effects are there in the background to enhance the scene, and it's very effective. And I thought that all of this was real. That you just captured it on film, and it was just effective, like the rope. That was another thing that I really tried to figure that out. I was really like, okay, how are they doing this? But I thought all of that was very, very effective, and I like the way that you have chosen to not have it in the front. And like I said, the trailer is kind of misleading, I think, for those when they're going to expect something else that's not what the film is. It's about the script and the story first.
Yeah. I mean, marketing materials, hopefully you're not totally conning your audience to something totally not expecting, but unless your movie is what was that point of view Russian film?
Oh, wait, which one?
With the that was great.
That movie or Crazy Charlie or whatever.
Yeah, Crazy Charlie. Was that
something,
it?
It's not called Crazy Charlie, but it's something like that.
No one's movie can be as visceral and kinetic as their trailer. Unless it's something like that. Or like The Raid or The Raid 2.
Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Mad Max is better than its trailer. Yeah, kinetically.
But also I was going to say that, Aaron's a visual effects genius, and his specialty is something called 2D compositing, and it's something that we've been able to exploit his amazing talent at it through all three of our movies. But I think that the way that we use it is, it's funny, I just realized this, Aaron and I are both huge fans of Lord of the Rings. I don't think anyone would look at our films and be like, they must have been inspired by Lord of the Rings.
Right.
I would wish that would happen, but it does not. But there is a technical approach in Lord of the Rings that I do think we use just at a much smaller scale, and it's that get everything as far as you can possibly get it in camera and on set, and then use visual effects technology to augment that. And instead of just relying on digital technology or just relying on practical effects, because that doesn't usually turn out very well either. But it's really, again, it's just about getting it as far as you possibly can on set, and then using the technology that Aaron brilliantly knows how to use to make it even better.
Now I'm gonna stay with Aaron on this, because what do you consider this? Do you consider it paranormal? Do you consider it supernatural? Do you consider it science fiction? Is this E.T.? Is this ancient cultures? What? And you leave so much of this for the audience to figure out for themselves, which is great. But you personally, what do you consider this film?
Almost all of what you said just there, I would say I consider it. The only one I would say it's probably not is extraterrestrial. But that said, though, it's what it is it's something that is so ancient that in many ways it defies comprehension, or at least it defies categorization. And so we like to think of it as something that's always been there. It's a natural phenomenon that has grown out of the earth and become sentient in a way that also in other ways is able to interact with plenty of other dimensions and has become demigod-like. That is simultaneously a natural event and also animal.
Don't give it away.
What I thought you just asked. Sorry.
Man, you danced on that one. I was like, I got to pump the brakes here.
I am not saying this is what it is.
Okay.
But if John A. Keel came across this region,
right,
he might weave it into an extraterrestrial theory. And we're not saying that's what it is, but he might weave it into it. He might find enough things. He's like, well, I found it on cave paintings, and I found it, and it seems interdimensional, and he might like weave it into his argument in Our Haunted Planet.
Justin, what do you think it is?
Well, actually, that was him talking. We just swapped in the middle of that answer.
I thought I had you guys figured out.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, Aaron, what do you think it is?
No, we just swapped in the middle of that answer. So we both just answered it. So I was saying it's animal, but also simultaneously natural, and then he jumped in and talked about John A. Keel.
Now, see, this is, and I love this part of it. Again, no spoilers here, but it seems to me about halfway through the film that we're dealing with something that is maybe game playing or having fun, that there is an intelligence here that is in control of Camp Arcadia.
Yeah, and that's the hopeful idea, is that there's a very direct, potentially malevolent influence on everything that's happening. And actually, that does tie back to our first film, Resolution, as well. That we want it to seem intelligent, but a little bit unknowable as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of the funnest parts of the film is trying to figure out. Man, I don't want to. I feel like all of us are almost giving it away.
You can somehow string it along for almost 2 hours. Without having to do any spoilers. This is great.
Yeah, well, because when I first started speaking about the film last month or at the beginning of July, I didn't want to give it away either, and I knew that everybody getting into the film was going to go through exactly what I went through. And there's no way that you can't take that ride and try to figure it out. It's a very complex series of events that suggest so many different things, because we're obviously dealing with time. There's that part of it, and then you throw in everything else. And like I said, for me, that little alien in the glass was something that was deliberately put there. And so,
oh my God! Please show us an image of that. I am so curious.
I have to. I'll get it. I'll get it somehow, and get that to you guys. But anyway, for me, that was one of the coolest things about it, because that took me down a whole nother mental road. Right? And I was cool with it. I was like, it was making sense to me through something that now that I know it wasn't even supposed to be there and it wasn't intentional. It's one of those things. It's like, don't kill it for me. It's one of my fondest memories. Right?
No, absolutely. And what's funny is it's, when you say you saw that man in the glass, our films are, we're willing to accept other people's interpretations of the film, but it's not one of those things that we just kind of shrug and say, "Oh, whatever you think it is, it's dream logic." It's not like that. There is a deliberate interpretation, but it's also a very deliberately, by construction, mysterious film. And so we have an answer to the mystery. That's our own theory on mystery, is that we need the answer. It's just how we dole it out and how much we give. Some stuff we leave to the side on the periphery, and some stuff we feed directly in dialogue and action in really obvious ways, and then somewhere in between. But ultimately, your understanding of the film is probably not like grossly incorrect. It's just something where it's like, oh, you're grabbing something from your own lifelong experience and applying it to this mythology that we invented, and it's probably still pretty darn close to what. I'm so sorry. What we keep on to what the film actually is.
Well, so as we start to wrap up here, the big question is, especially with the way that the film concludes, is there an endless part 2?
Not an endless part 2, but again, we have it's sort of inconsequential to this movie, but yeah, we do have 2 movies that take place in this world, and it took about 6 years to just almost sort of unconsciously develop this one. Whether we wanted to or not, we were creating all this material. We just kept talking about it, and then realized we had to do it. And probably, given another 6 to 10 years, we'll tell another story in this universe. We don't know if that would be a movie or a TV show. It probably wouldn't be called The Endless 2. It would probably be, again, just doing something that you could watch it on its own and then discover that there's 2 movies that take place with these characters, and that would be mind-blowing. It would be something like that.
Well, what are you guys working on now? Are you in production?
We're not in production. We have 4 movies and 2 TV shows in development. And one of the TV shows, the one thing we talk about pretty openly is we have a TV show about the early 1900s occultist Aleister Crowley.
Oh,
yeah, it's a lengthy telling of his life. Not directly. We take obviously plenty of liberties with it, but it's a relatively even-handed view of him. And actually, hey, question for you.
Yes.
On the call-outs in the first radio segment, you had Toby Kebbell.
Yes.
What did you chat with him about?
Oh, man, that would be telling. But I'm a big, okay, look, I love film. And when it comes to Guy Ritchie and others out there that I really respect what they do, I study the films and everything. And so Toby and Rock'n'Rolla was one of those films that is very singular. A film that great comes along very rarely, right? And we all know this. And everything aligned for Guy Ritchie on that film. But I also went back and watched everything else that Toby had done in his career leading up to that. And he's very, very, very gifted. I had the opportunity with Toby to talk to him for about 6 hours privately.
Whoa.
Okay, and I got inside of his head, and it's going to stay there. Okay, it just needs to stay there. But when he did that drop for me, which was at the end of the day, he goes, "Man, I've got something perfect. I got something perfect." And he did that. He did that in one take, and it was just a gift that he did. And there you go. But he's just an amazing guy. Have you ever met him?
It's funny. Aaron met him once, very, very briefly, but the reason why we're so curious about him, we've been sort of tracking his career as well, is the character that he plays in Rock'n'Rolla, Johnny Quid. Am I getting that right?
Yep.
That character has always sort of been the comp for how we saw the more reckless aspects of our Aleister Crowley character.
Now see, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. So you get the idea, like the more sort of like humorous, reckless aspects of his personality. And again, the show we've been developing is neither glamorizes him nor nor says that he was actually the wickedest man in the world or a Satanist or anything like that. But we saw the show is a very, very complicated guy who's very flawed. And in the sort of the funnier, darker moments of Johnny Quid and Rock and Rolla, we were like, oh, that's basically what we should be looking for in casting this character.
And I could see that because, when you go back and look, like I'm sure you guys have had to do to research Alistair's life, there was a few years there where he walked to the edge of the cliff, man, and took a peek.
Yeah. Oh my God. Also, a good way to put it. Also, literally.
Yeah. Yes.
He's like a very accomplished mountain climber.
Well, yeah, literally, just like Johnny Quid, man. Johnny Quid went to the edge, man. He went right there, and Crowley definitely did that. His time in Italy is some of the craziest stuff that I have ever read. I mean, he definitely pushed it. He went right there. So yeah, I can even see Toby Kebbell playing that young Crowley in Italy. That's
and the thing is like through it all, and he's obviously an interesting. If you want to call him a spiritual figure, he's interesting from that viewpoint, in that he is in some ways, and you can argue in some ways he's an early version of what people now define as being a cult leader. I'm not saying that's what he was, but the thing that sort of distinguishes him, he had a true conviction, he had a true faith in his very esoteric spirituality, and he simultaneously had a really great sense of humor about it. And I think that's what Toby Kebbell did so well with Rock and Rolla, is he is hilarious, and yet at the same time so sincere. So heartbreakingly sincere.
Wouldn't it have been fun? That role, and I talked to Toby about this quite a bit. It had to have been the funnest thing you could have ever done.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah!
And that's like I think that was like, I don't know if that was the first thing he did for Dead Man's Shoes, but I know it was shortly after. He hadn't done that much.
Right.
And what a role! He's your one of your first roles is the Guy Ritchie redemption movie. He's had some misfires but that's Guy Ritchie's comeback movie. That's his he came back from a string of stuff that people didn't really connect with, and did the UK gangster movie again better than anyone had ever done it.
Yeah, that's true, and certainly when you go and look at Dead Man's Shoes, which I had heard so much about, right, and then it's one of those things where it's become this. It's more about legend than legendary, right? It's been built up. You go and you watch that, and Toby was so scarily perfect in that role, and so convincing in that role. It reminds me of what was that line in Tropic Thunder, right? Never go full tard, right? You remember that line?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't forget that line.
Now, please, everybody, don't send me the emails from what I just said. It's just a line from the film. But that's what Toby did. And it was so convincing. And then a Rock and Rolla comes out, and you see how dynamic of an actor and a talent that he really is. Dead Man's Shoes was just an extraordinary film. Extraordinary film. Heartbreaking, too. Oh, man. Ooh, tough.
Yeah.
Tough film. Tough film.
Also, I just realized something. I sometimes take issue with the idea of being like, that person's a movie star, and it's like, okay, you sound like a 1930s producer right now. But I tend to think, well, there's a lot of things going into play here. There's filmmaking. There's a lot of unconscious things with the sound design. There is editing, rehearsal. There's writing. There's a lot of things that go into a person's performance. I will say that Toby Kebbell and Rock and Rolla, that is a movie star performance. That is like, oh, who is that guy? This is amazing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a singular movie. It's something that is rare, that comes along, and it is that well done. And everybody in that film, when you move on from things like well, you know what? Everybody, I'm trying to think. Handsome Bob, what's his name? Just away from me right now, and I'm just tired. Uncle, who's his uncle?
Handsome Bob's uncle?
His uncle. Oh, God. Is his uncle the guy that actually played the Aleister Crowley inspired character in Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes?
Yes.
Mark Strong. Yeah.
Or Mark Strong?
Yeah, Mark Strong. Mark Strong.
Yeah. He was right.
And that's the line from the movie. Don't hurt me. I'm only little, and he says his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, everybody from Rock and Rolla, if you really think about it, and you go through the cast, think about what they have done since then. Right?
I mean,
they've all become these huge. Yeah, all of them.
Gerard Butler is in Rock and Rolla.
Yes, Gerard Butler. Handsome Bob. Who played Handsome Bob?
Oh my God, guys! Who's it that plays Alfie in Peaky Blinders? Who played
Steve Buscemi?
No,
Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Tom Hardy in Rock and Rolla.
Tom Hardy. Think about these.
Hardy, Gerard Butler, Mark. That's crazy.
Yeah. All from Guy Ritchie just doing what he did in Rock and Rolla, and of course you can back up and go to. Oh man, that's it. Guy Ritchie, IMDb. I'm just going to do this in real time. I can't. I'm losing my mind. Snatch. Same thing. Everybody's in Snatch, right?
Actually, I think Snatch. I think Snatch kicked it off more than Rock and Rolla, but Rock and Rolla kind of continued the through line of extraordinarily talented British actors. Because even Lock, Stock in a way too, but Snatch I think was the big one. Yeah. So that said, I feel like Guy Ritchie would be listening to. Well, he's not. He's probably not listening to me and Justin, but he's listening to this, being like, yeah, we know, guys.
We also need to remember, Sting is in his first movie.
What?
Sting is in Lock, Stock, and Barrels. He plays the main character's dad who owns the pub.
No. That's right. Yes. That's right. He's correct.
And he was Sting then.
And he was
had
been Sting
for
a
while,
very long time.
Like that wasn't just like, that's that guy became Sting.
You could argue he was in it after he was Sting.
Oh, that's great.
But if you go back and trip on this for a second, Gerard Butler, Tom Wilkinson, up to that point, character stuff. Tom Wilkinson has gone on to hugely successful films. I think it all stems off of what he did in Rock and Rolla. And what about Thandie Newton? Before Rock and Rolla, what was she doing? Mark Strong. How about Idris Elba?
In Rock and Rolla?
Get out of here.
Yes, he's got one of the best roles, and of course, Tom Hardy, and you've got Toby, Jeremy Piven, in his role.
I'm so excited to be old as hell and being like, there's this film.
Tell me, I want to go up to people and just be like, tell me the movie that has Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, Gerard Butler, Toby Kebbell,
Tom Wilkinson,
Mark Strong.
There's more.
And his first movie featured Sting. They'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I know.
And it was Tom Cruise's first starring role.
Oh man! And you know what though?
It was supposed to be Shilling for the Endless or something, but I feel like everyone needs to go watch Rock and Roll.
I know. And now I'm going to throw this out there, and as crazy as this might sound, because with Snatch and Rock and Rolla under his belt, but I'm going to just say this: The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a masterpiece.
People say that. I haven't seen it.
I have seen it. Masterpiece isn't the word, but it is very good.
Very good.
It is very good. There's nothing wrong with that movie. It's just that director's masterpiece already is
right. And I'm comfortable with saying that. In that when it from the first of the film, when it first kicks off, and as it starts to complete itself, that you start to understand that this is a really great film. And a remake of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., how good can it be? Look, the Sherlock Holmes stuff I was not a big fan of.
I love Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, but my standards from Guy are very, very, very high. When you go and you make a movie like Snatch and you make a movie like Rock and Rolla, where do you take it from there? Because it's got to be damn good. Right, and so that's what I'm saying. I don't think Sherlock Holmes was up there for me. It was okay. If he hadn't have made Rock and Rolla, okay, I might look at it a bit differently. But The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I think it's up there, man. I think it holds water.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, but you also just reminded me that if at any point Guy Ritchie is like, I guess I got to go make another London gangster movie, when he decides to do that, he will make, again, the best London gangster movie ever made.
No question about it.
Yeah, he'll take everything from Lock, Stock, Snatch, and Rock and Rolla, and to a lesser extent. What is the one that
with the chess pieces or whatever? What is it called? I just remember Jason Statham pushing chess.
Yeah.
By the way, Jason Statham, we forgot that one.
Oh, yeah, we forgot Jason Statham.
That was the thing. I kept on being like, there's another one. And it's like, it's Jason Statham. That's what it is. But yeah, it's the one where he's in jail and he pushes chess pieces around. We can't remember what it's called for some reason. Revolver,
yeah.
But anyhow, when he makes his 5th London gangster movie, it's got to be like that. That's like the closest you get to like an indie film event, if you want to call it an indie film.
Well, if somebody said, "Hey, we need someone to make like a London crime movie. It's called Sherlock Holmes." Like it is, like the guy is good. It is Guy Ritchie. It's always been Guy Ritchie,
Well, he did pretty good with King Arthur last year. I thought that was okay.
I'm ashamed to say I didn't see it because I watch pretty obviously. I mean, we're having this conversation. I've watched almost everything he's made.
It's one of those movies that's like really panned by everyone. I watched it on a plane and I was like, actually, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I don't think it's a bad movie.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, and there's a weird thing too where I have a hard time with like really, really big budget popcorn Hollywood films. It's like, yeah, there's like a template you use and they all use it, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you why King Arthur is so poorly received and Captain America is. Like I just wouldn't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
They seem of equivalent entertainment value.
Yeah, they're like entertaining movies, and they follow the template, and they do it well. And yeah, I couldn't really say why one gets sort of.
Yeah, well, speaking of like Guy Ritchie and Tarantino and so many that we respect, who do you guys look up to these days? Because I'm a big fan of Robert Rodriguez too as well. I think he's got an immense amount of talent. Del Toro too as well. Who do you guys look up to these days?
I mean, you mentioned a lot of them, but there's also people like Steven Soderbergh and the Duplass brothers who are just getting their hands dirty and making a movie. And by the way, that's not to say that Quentin Tarantino, especially Robert Rodriguez and Del Toro, don't. But Soderbergh is just aggressively making film, as are the Duplass brothers, and we get a lot of inspiration from just motivation to go out and create from them, and then also tonally. They are. It's a lot of our friends, to be honest. You hang out with them, and it's people who make. I mean, we just produced a film by this guy named Jeremy Gardner, who made this beautiful film called The Battery, and he co-directed this new film with Christian Stella called Something Else, and they inspire us, and I mean that truly. I don't just mean that because they're our buddies, and actually, Denis Villeneuve is a person who can actually inspire fear, and I think that that's rare and difficult. And he inspires fear in his sci-fi, which is our favorite kind of thing to do. And people haven't really been doing that much. But Annihilation by Alex Garland.
Annihilation was great.
Yeah, spectacular, and truly terrifying. And but I think that we've been slowly realizing we were way too slow to realize this, that in the quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, the horror genre, a lot of people's movies are just they're fun. They're meant to be fun, and they are classified as horror, and they are technically following the tropes of horror. But what they are is to entertain you, and I do think that our films are designed to be interesting, but we really, really want to scare you. We want to truly scare you before we want to entertain you. And I think that Denis Villeneuve is a really good example of that.
He makes really scary movies.
Yeah, Sicario is like a drug trafficking movies, but it's terrifying, And actually, have you seen I haven't seen enough of Paul Schrader's directorial work to make an opinion, but if you saw First Reformed this year, that's been a big deal for us. Terrifying movie. And I think that's it. Is anyone who's making a movie that is, it's funny. We vacillate between these filmmakers who make ultra humanitarian movies like Richard Linklater or Lord of the Rings or Almost Famous, and that's where we get our human side. And then where we get our terror side are these super cold, deeply disturbing movies like First Reformed or like
Kill List by Ben Wheatley,
and David Lynch. He's a humanist as well, but the scariest of all David Lynch, that sort of thing.
Well, there's, for me, and I'm probably speaking for anybody, but when you have the ability, certainly Lynch did it as one of the best, but when you can take the craziest, scariest dream that you've ever had that you can't remember, and you wake up and you go, man, that would have been a great movie, but you don't remember it. But Lynch has the ability to incorporate that where you go into the dark places that you in your sleep, and he captures that on film. And that's why I think it's so effective with everybody, and including with myself. It's just like, man, he's going into a zone that scares me because I only do that in my sleep. Lynch is able to do that. I swear, I don't know how he pulls it off, but it's.
I think he does it with his transcendental meditation. I think he's able to cognizantly dream in a way, and it's something I'm very jealous of. And
yeah.
But we're producing a short film this weekend of a friend of ours named Pete Solella, who is actually in Resolution and The Endless as a performer, and it's based off of a dream he had, and he just over drinks one night. He's just like, "Yeah, I had this dream, and it was terrifying, and now it's a movie, or it's about to become a movie this weekend."
Well, what did you think about the? How do I want to say this? The Lynch today, with the freedom of being on with Twin Peaks, writing and shooting for cable as opposed to network television before, where he had the constraints of the FCC and everything else, that he really captured the terrifying parts of dreams in the latest version of Twin Peaks, where I think he effectively really went there in a troubling way.
Yeah, troubling. You mean? Do you mean emotionally troubling?
Yeah, emotionally troubling. I mean, psychotic, man. It's like schizophrenic. I mean,
Yeah. There were episodes that really tried my patience,
right?
And it was difficult for me because as someone who likes to considers themselves an artist with a lowercase a, by definition of my career, I want to encourage that kind of thing to continually happen. But the fact is he tested everybody's patience. He probably tested his own patience, and so it was this weird thing where I was like, I'm glad that Showtime is giving this artist with a capital A the screen time and the ability to make something that is never ever going to be replicated and never could be. And the 8th episode of that show, where they explain the origins of Bob, it's one of the most important episodes of television ever, I think. That said, I don't know when I'll rewatch it, but I do think that it was extraordinarily important that it happened, and I think that we're very lucky that we live in an era where people like Showtime or whatever allows that mechanic to happen. I think that's incredible.
I went, I watched all of the Twin Peaks version 2, and I think I did the same thing that you did, in that I'm done. I don't want to go back. I've got it all recorded, right? It's all just sitting there, and I can just go and do it. And I think it's too much. It's too much of an emotional investment to go through a second time. I wanted to ask you the same things about Kubrick, too, as well. We're talking about modern directors today that are still with us, but his ability to do all of that as well, to get inside of our heads, I think was always very effective.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is a very, very, very short list of directors who have truly created something that is, even to a modern viewer who's seen everything, that you can watch the content that they created and you are truly to your core terrified by it. And there's a line that kind of needs to get drawn in terms of like, look, when I was a little kid and I saw a movie I saw my first haunted house movie and it had jump scares, and I saw a movie that had violence in it, it frightened me. Now as an adult, jump scares, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I can appreciate the craftsmanship of it, and then it's not an easy thing to do. There are directors who do it extraordinarily well. Or I can see a piece of violence in a film and be like, oh, okay, that made me not want to look at it, and it gave me a visceral reaction that's hard to do. But there's an upper echelon of being scared, that is, it may be a better word for it. It's like, unnerved, dread, uneasy. That's much harder to accomplish. And there's only a handful of directors who have ever been able to truly do that. And you're right, it's Kubrick, it's David Lynch, it's Friedkin.
Yeah, Friedkin.
But there's not that many. And there's a lot of stuff that people remember. It's like, oh, remember that movie was so scary, and then you go rewatch it, and there's like a really synthy 80s score, and the blood doesn't quite look right, and it's like, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means like, oh, you're not
scared. You're just not deeply terrified. Yeah. You were scared as a kid because everything scares children.
What was that Stephen King, the graveyard with the animals? What was that called?
Pet Cemetery, no?
Yeah, Pet Cemetery. That's what it's called, the graveyard with the animals. Pet Cemetery. So I went back like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and watched that again. I swear, comedy. It's a comedy, right?
Yeah.
and I remember being so scared from that, and my friends talking about how scary that movie was, and I watched it again, and it was like well-crafted sketch comedy.
One of the scariest things I saw as a child was Zelda. Not the video game. I love the video game. Was Zelda the sister was she have like spinal meningitis? The sister in Pet Cemetery, the original?
Yes.
That's one of the scariest images I had seen when I was a child, was her suffering on that bed. It was so unnerving. Don't tell me it doesn't work anymore. Even if you do, I'm going to not watch it and just assume it does. Don't spoil my childhood.
I want to thank you, too, for this conversation tonight. Just absolutely unbelievable. And The Endless is just a tremendous film. Congratulations on that. Your future is just so bright. And hopefully I can just ride along with it with you guys and enjoy all of the work that you guys are going to do in the future. Thank you so much. And get a website.
Yeah, I know. We've got a Twitter and an Instagram, and that works well for us. If anybody that's listening feels like interacting with us idiots, it's just our names at Aaron Moorhead and at Justin H. Benson.
Thank you so much, and I can't wait to get you back on. And I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but we do have some stuff planned in the future with the both of you, and I'll make those announcements over the next couple of weeks. Okay? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic conversation. Now, also, Aaron and Justin have created a website that I do want you to go check out. It is called ourmultiversesavior.org. The links to that are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And I did blow through our network break at the bottom of the hour, so I've got to pay the bills and get this commercial in before I say goodnight. So I'm going to do that now. You can follow both Aaron and Justin. It's Aaron Moorhead on Twitter and Justin H. Benson on Twitter. We've got everything up there right now. Thank you guys. Amazing conversation. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back to say goodnight.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Erica,
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Now I've got to get out of here. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, creators of the film The Endless. And you can go. It is streaming, and you can find it on Amazon. It's right there. I think it's on Netflix, too, as well. Both. And you can go and watch it. It is an amazing film. And before I get out of here, I want to remind everybody to go and sign up for Soul Tech up at ECETI Ranch, soultechgathering.com. We've got just a few tickets left, and then that's it. We will be shutting it down. soultechgathering.com. We will have James Gilliland, Jason Quitt, Matthew Ryan, Michaela Sheldon, Teresa Yanares, Holly Marie, Mary Gabrielle, John Lund, Dana Harvey, Billy Carson, Laura Cantu, and Christine Contini teaching all weekend long. We've got a bunch of really cool events set up, and you just go to soultechgathering.com, and I just can't wait. That is August 9th through the 12th. Up at ECETI Ranch. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Tomorrow night is another Fader night, open lines all night long, featuring the return of John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, followed by open lines all night long. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar, Webmaster Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, Fader night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.